Put a chat down at the bottom and let us know. I see Jack, I see Brian. All right, folks are joining. Okay. Looks like we're happening. Hi, everyone. All right, so I'm gonna turn my computer off to make it so that it's more likely to go a little faster. And great, get started. Hey, everybody. This is Caitlin Saposi Belknap. I am speaking to you from Sacramento, California, where it's raining, which is fabulous. It's been a gray day all day, and that is totally just fine. So hope you're doing well where you are. Here, let me actually I'm going to move this here. Okay, so welcome to this edition of Move to Amend's monthly live stream. Today is January 24th, 2018, and this is the Move to Amend report. This is the space where you can hear the latest about what's going down in the movement to amend the U.S. Constitution and legalize democracy. I'm your host, Caitlin Saposi Belknap, Move to Amend's National Director. And always, you can find me here on the fourth Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on Facebook Live. So please comment where you're tuning in from, and if you have any questions for us, and we'll answer your questions in real time. I want to give a shout out to Garrett, who is helping to answer your questions, and also we'll be posting links to things I reference so that you can know where to follow up and get more information. So this is our first show of the year, and we've got a lot to catch up on. And we also have a special raffle giveaway that I'll be doing throughout our show tonight for some of our lucky donors of 2017 who donated to our end of the year campaign. So let me start off with that a little bit. We're picking 28 folks who contributed to our end of the year campaign, and we will contact you and let you know what raffle prizes you have won or prize you have won. But want to let folks know that here are some of the options of things we have. Move to Amend hats, which these are super special because there are only a handful of these in the world. We don't make them at Move to Amend National, but one of our awesome affiliates had some made, and they gave us the extras, so we still have a few left. So we'll be including a couple of those in the raffle. We have Move to Amend Tote Bag if you want to get your groceries, or perfect for petitioning. We have these awesome handkerchiefs that you can't probably see that well, but they say water is life in all different languages. And so we'll have some of those in the raffle. We have some of our trusty and timeless, I'm not doing this well, stamps that say a corporation is not a person, money is not speech. So you can stamp your money or stamp your outgoing mail like we do at the Move to Amend office, or stamp your checks. We have, I'm so backwards, water bottle, Move to Amend water bottle. Stainless steel, so you don't get any of that crappy plastic leaching into your water. Some Move to Amend, Legalize Democracy, our 28-minute DVD, introduction to our campaign, and then there's also some shorts that are included on the DVD. And we have a few Democracy Convention t-shirts left from the Democracy Convention that we had last summer in Minneapolis. So we've got a few of those to include in the raffle as well. So I'll be letting folks know whose names we've drawn. We're picking 28 for the 28th amendment of our awesome donors who contributed to our end of the year campaign. No matter how much you gave, you got put in the hat, and I'll let you know who the winners are throughout the show. So, but first I want to say hey to Alfonso and Bill from Rochester, Alfonso from Brownsville, Texas, Kit from Albuquerque, Anne from Colorado, hey Jessica from LA, Lydia So thanks to folks who are tuning in, and please say hello. And if you've got questions along the way, then don't hesitate to ask, and me and Garrett will make sure we get them answered. So let's get going. So highlights from January. We always kind of do a little bit of a roundup at the end of the month here on what's been going on. So the GOP bait and switch. Want to talk a little bit about 2017 ending with the GOP passing their tax scam bill, which basically screamed at all of us, let them eat cake. Major corporations were having a field day, taking advantage of the good optics from the plan passing. Walmart announced that it would increase starting wages by $1, while quietly also announcing that it would close 63 Sam's Club stores across the country. So was that really because the tax bill, or just a swap of some employees for others? AT&T announced a one-time only bonus to 200,000 employees, but also thousands of layoffs as well. And just to clarify, a one-time bonus is not a wage increase and can give the company a more favorable tax bill. Bank of America announced a one-time $1,000 bonus too, which is still not a wage increase, and then announced it was going to raise fees on low-income customers by charging a monthly fee for its basic checking account. So again, are they really using the tax breaks that we are giving them, or are they just swapping out, throwing some people under the bus and then paying off and deserving some other folks, but not increasing wages, not anything built into the ongoing budget? Comcast fired 500 members of its sales department right before Christmas. Pfizer, a pharmaceutical giant who has the largest stash of cash offshore and can bring it back at a severely discounted rate thanks to the tax bill, announced a $10 million stock buyback instead of paying its workers more. Those workers didn't even get a one-time bonus. Oh, and they also cut 300 scientists from their workforce. CEO Tim Sloan of Wells Fargo, on the day the bill passed, said, "It is our goal to increase return to our shareholders." Yes. So our expectation should be that we'll continue to increase our dividend and our share buybacks next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. Ugh. So Garrett's going to share an article on our website where you can get the full details on all of these layoffs. And again, we're definitely getting let them eat caked, and it's time to maybe respond accordingly. So the verifiable proof that the tax bill wasn't meant to help us is all this, and it was also just discovered in campaign finance filings this week that days after the plan passed, Charles Koch of the Koch brothers gave $500,000 to Paul Ryan. And he and Elizabeth Koch, his wife, also gave $237,000, which is the maximum amount, each to the Republican National Congressional Committee. So I'm sure that Republicans appreciated those generous thank you gifts that they got in return. This is corporate rule, people. This is what corporate rule looks like. So if there was any doubt in our minds, 2017 closed us out with a cherry on top in terms of our corporate rule situation and left us clear in what we need to do, which is amend the Constitution to end corporate rule and put corporations back in their place. So I'm going to pause here. Hey, Henry from Panama City, Florida, and announce our first few folks who are raffle winners. You will get an email or phone call from someone on our team, and then we'll check in about what you won. So I'm not going to go into all those details here, but I want to announce Kathleen Edie. And if I say people's names, I'm so wrong. I'm so sorry. I guess I kind of deserve to do that a little bit because everyone always gets my name wrong. So apologies in advance. And I know that sometimes you just gotta roll with it. So sorry. So Kathleen Edie and Kevin Rodolfo and Jerome Blackburn and Richard Kalman are our first winners of the raffle. So congratulations. If any of you are listening, then way to go. And I'm going to keep on moving to the next item, which is the unhappy 8th anniversary of Citizens United, which makes virtually all of this bullshit possible. It's also moved to a men's public birthday, but in an ideal world, we wouldn't even need to exist and all of us could work on other things. So that's kind of unhappy too. So along with the anniversary of Citizens United, it's our birthday and we publicly launched on that very same day. We were right there, ready to go. We knew it was going to happen and we were prepared. So we started out as a room full of people, kind of like in a living room like this. Wasn't exactly here, but it was just a little bit over to the west of me in another town in California. So there are literally about a dozen of us, and we now stand strong at nearly 450,000. So thanks for being part of the Move to Amend team, all of you. The U.S. is currently embroiled in another Gilded Age, where corporations, instead of bought-off politicians, are actually running the place. The first Gilded Age produced the robber barons and rebels. Their robber barons are our 1%. And still have the same names, some of them, like JP Morgan, Carnegie, Mellon, and Rockefeller, who got exceedingly rich by exploiting people and the rule of law. Practical and obvious solutions like Medicare for all, a green sustainable economy, and a guaranteed annual income are impossible because they reduce profits for the same few, and despite causing great expense, harm, and death to the many. It's also worth noting that previous robber baron era is where the idea of corporations having constitutional rights came out of, right? So just as there were folks who were actually rebelling and responding the great populist movement at the time, we need to build a similar movement. Many organizations and certain Democrats are calling to overturn Citizens United, which, though, think about it, what Citizens United did, basically in a nutshell, is said that Congress doesn't actually have the authority to regulate spending because spending money in elections is protected by the First Amendment, and it also made sure, the court also made very clear that when they're talking about protecting First Amendment rights for large donors, they also are talking about corporations, right? So if we were to overturn Citizens United, what would that do? That would take us back to 2009. I'm old enough to remember 2009. It's not like corporations and the wealthy were not in control of the political process at that point as well. That's part of why Move to Amend was ready to go, right? We already knew that the situation was messed up before Citizens United. So at the time, corporations already possessed First Amendment rights, besides the ability to contribute money to elections, Fourth Amendment protections, Fifth Amendment rights, along with the holy grail of human rights, the 14th Amendment, the right to equal protection under the law. None of that started with Citizens United. As long as corporations don't die and are recognized as people with 14th Amendment protections, addressing campaign spending will not fix our problems in the long run. The only constitutional remedy is to abolish corporate constitutional rights altogether and replace them with a set of clearly articulated privileges and powers which enable corporations to conduct business in a secure and stable environment while also protecting the public welfare. The We the People Amendment, which is before Congress, and we've been working on for the last 8 years, does exactly that. And it is the only amendment which will completely overturn Citizens United, but also all of the rulings that made Citizens United possible and that have imbued corporations with constitutional human rights, but also have created this idea that spending money in elections is something that we can't regulate and is part of the First Amendment, which means that basically the wealthy have taken the First Amendment and they're able to use it against us. Laura Bonham, one of my awesome friends and colleagues and one of our board members, talks about this all in a Common Dreams article that we had published over the weekend. Check out her full piece. Garrett will link it in the comments and let us know what you think. Let's see. Anyone else to say hi to? No, if you're here, make sure to let me know. Say hey, let me know where you're tuning in from. And let me announce another few raffle winners. Again, for folks who tuned in late, I just want to remind you, here's the things that we've got kind of in the raffle pool. This is for everybody who contributed money to our end of the year campaign. It's always a really big year, or a really big part of the year for us. We needed to raise $150,000. We actually came short. We're going to keep on plodding away. So if you didn't donate at the end of the year, we'll still happily take your contribution now, because the work actually doesn't matter what time of the year it is. But we normally have a big rush of, we had thousands of folks who contributed. Thank you to everybody who did. And this year we put everybody in a pool who made a contribution, and we're doing a raffle. We're pulling 28 names for the 28th Amendment, and going to give you a thank you gift for helping us at the end of the year there. So here are some of the things that we want to offer up as part of this raffle. So we have some leftover Democracy Convention t-shirts. This was a really important and amazing event that we had last summer in Minneapolis. And so we've got some of those. We have Move to Amend water bottles, which are an ongoing thing that if you think this is cool and you don't end up winning the raffle, you could get your own on your own. Same goes for Legalize Democracy, which is our 28-minute mini documentary about Move to Amend. And there's also some extras on the DVD version here. We have, these are not in our store, these handkerchiefs, more kind of from the year before when water protectors were on the mind and in the news, and obviously that hasn't gone away, that issue. So these are handkerchiefs that say water is life. You can see they're in English, but in many different languages all across, and beautiful screen printed image of water there. So we'll include some of those as an option for raffle winners. And then we have Move to Amend tote bags, which you can use for grocery shopping, farmers market shopping, also petitioning, really work well for that. Let's see. And we have a few, again, these are not in our shop. Oh, I'm so bad at, should like put it on. Not in our shop. I look like this is way too big for me, but I'm going to wear it for the rest of this, even if I look ridiculous. There's only a few of these in the world. One of our affiliates made them, and then they gave us the extras, and so we don't have enough to sell, but we are going to make a few of them in the raffle pool too. So if you've always wanted, it's embroidery. It's really nice quality. So let's see. Addie from California. Hey, Charles from Wichita. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. So let me announce a few more winners in this raffle. We've got Frederick Dodsworth. We have Carol Murphy, Jennifer Isaacs, Sylvia Marks, Martha Kudalik, or Kudalich. She might say it that way if she is Polish or Slovak like me. And Kirk Leonard. Ooh, I recognize that name. From Salem, Oregon. I don't know if he's tuning in, but one of our affiliate leaders and volunteers. So thanks again to all of you. And there are some more winners as well, so I'll keep announcing. But let me go back to the kind of news report. So I hope you were at the Women's March last weekend. Hundreds of thousands of us went to women's marches in our communities and showed solidarity in a time where women are getting really destroyed with policies by the Trump administration. Not to mention the fact that he is a confessed, not just confessed, but bragging sexual predator. So more than ever, we need women's marches, right? The latest assault on women comes with a Department of Labor rule change that was supported by the National Restaurant Association. It was in fact lobbied for by the National Restaurant Association, which allows employers to potentially steal billions of earned tips from employees. The Economic Policy Institute's latest report says that this rule change could transfer $5.8 billion in tips per year from workers to employers. That's 4.6 billion of which would be taken from female employees, since they're the largest share of tipped workers. So basically, this rule now says that employers can decide, rather than letting waitresses or waiters keep their tips, they can take them and they can distribute them to the other workers, folks in the kitchen, And so in some ways, those folks are, certainly underpaid, and it would seem on its face that maybe this is a kind of bit of an equalizing thing. However, it also says that employers can just keep those tips. So, I wonder why the National Restaurant Association, which represents restaurant owners, right, not restaurant workers, would lobby so hard for this if it's really about supporting cooks and dishwashers and bussers, right? No, that's probably, unfortunately, not what will happen in most places. So if you're a female tipped worker, you probably rely on those tips to feed your family. I didn't have a family, but I have been a waitress, and in some states, you don't make enough money per hour to make the minimum wage unless you have tips, right? So unless you're clueless, you know that women already face particularly adverse workplace conditions in the restaurant industry. I almost say it in particular, but actually I think we're really finding that every industry, right? But certainly the restaurant industry is no exception. Studies have shown that tipping is, quote, linked to higher rates of sexual harassment, since women are likely to put up with harassments since they rely on tips for survival. So the whole situation is not great for women. Now that those tips will most likely be going to employers, it provides an incentive to managers to overlook abuse and even encourage it. For the full story, you can check out our website. Garrett will link to an article that tells you more. Instead of these kinds of policies that are clearly designed to hurt women and working people over those who, are the owning class, we should, for example, look at other examples, places like Iceland and other countries that have better examples for how to do this. They just made it completely illegal for gender pay discrimination and even offered an international model for other countries to use as well, right? So we know that we've got a pay gap here in the United States, certainly, and in Iceland, it's now against the law for companies to pay women less than they pay men. So that's what we could use. So let's see. I want to see if there's anyone else who joined us new. Remember, if you're tuning in, please say hey, and I'd love to give a shout out to you. Hey, Henry from Panama City. I don't remember. I might have already said yes to you or hi to you. So welcome to the folks who are here. I'm going to announce a couple more folks from the raffle, and I'm also going to take off this hat because I feel silly. Not that it's not a great hat. It's just too big for me. So William Stahlcup, congratulations. Bruce Coppola, congratulations. Jackie Rose and Michael Nat, congratulations. And we'll be following up with these folks. If your name sounded similar and you missed it and it wasn't you or is you, don't worry about it. We'll make sure you get your thank you raffle prize. So, let's see. I don't have a script here for this part. That I wanted to report out on my trip to Washington, D.C. last week. Last week I was in Washington, D.C. in meetings all day long on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I was joined by an awesome volunteer who lives in Virginia, Fran, and I was supported by one of our awesome interns, Evan, who also happens to live in Virginia, who set up all of the meetings. And I might have messed up by not having the list here in front of me, but I'm going to go off memory. So first of all, I did something that we hadn't ever done before, which was a briefing for legislative staff. And want to thank Congressmember Rick Nolan, who was our lead sponsor for House Joint Resolution 48, the We the People, that has been introduced in Congress now 3 times. We closed out last year with 52 co-sponsors, all-time high. We doubled the number of co-sponsors in the House from 24 at the beginning of last year when the amendment was first introduced for this Congress, and then closed out with 52. So it was really exciting. Rick Nolan did a lot to help us with that. Also, our awesome volunteers on the ground made it happen. So that was great, but we didn't want to let it go at that. So Nolan's office helped us by co-sponsoring an event where I was able to give a presentation to legislative staffers. So there were about 12 different House members who were represented at that meeting. We'll be following up with all of them and letting them hoping that they'll come on and hopefully learning about the issue. So we'll continue to do those. That was interesting. I'd never done one of those before. So I just talked about why we need an amendment that addresses corporate constitutional rights rather than only overturning Citizens United, and kind of what sets our amendment apart, and made the case. And it was really well received. There was actually one person who was there from Pete Olson's office. He's a Republican. He was an intern, but he had good things to say and thought that this totally made sense to him. So that was encouraging. So then went on to have a bunch of one-on-one meetings. The House members that we met with included Mike Thompson from California, Ami Bera from California. So Mike Thompson's District 5, Ami Bera's District 7, Jared Paulus from Colorado District 2, and Doris Matsui, who's actually my representative from California District 6. So those were the House members. Those are all folks other than Matsui. The first three, the men that I named, all have taken our pledge to amend, which is a campaign that we do every election season to get candidates to pledge to support the amendment, to speak, to let voters know where they stand on Citizens United and the idea that corporations have constitutional rights and money is speech. So to make a statement, to say their position, and then also to pledge to use their office should they be elected or reelected to support the amendment effort. So Mike Thompson, Ami Bera, and Jared Polis have all taken the pledge to amend, but yet they're not yet co-sponsors on the We the People amendment. And I think actually, well, at least Mike Thompson and Ami Bera, they actually took that pledge back in 2014. So they've had ample time. They've had now 4 years where they could have delivered and haven't. So I followed up as part of our ongoing accountability, and we will continue to do so. I met with staff, so I didn't get commitments there, and not as a non-constituent myself. Oftentimes it kind of takes, more than just me or just Move to Amend National to make it happen. So if you live in any of those districts or know anybody who does, now would be a great time, not now, but tomorrow morning would be a great time to call them and follow up on my meeting and demand that they follow through on their commitment and come on as co-sponsors. Doris Matsui hasn't taken the pledge to amend, but we've been meeting with her office for some time, and we're still working on that. So if you live here in the Sacramento area, actually Ami Bera's a neighboring Congress member as well. So if you live here in the Sacramento area, chances are that we are targeting your Congress member and we could use your help. So that was on the House side. And then I had a number of meetings on the Senate side. So our amendment hasn't been introduced in the Senate yet. We're still working on finding an initial lead. The Senate is a lot harder than the House in terms of, just sort of decorum and conservativeness in general on the part of all of them, not wanting to introduce measures that, aren't going to get past this Congress, don't want to do anything that's going to shake things up or rock the boat. So it takes a lot more, relationship building and kind of, following up, dragging it out with the Senate. So I'll admit this isn't my favorite part of my job, but it needs to be done. So here are the folks who, staffers that I met with. I met with, most of the time it was either a legislative director or their counsel, which is their attorney or one of their attorneys. So John McCain, first time trying his office. Cory Booker, maybe I should say where these folks are. So John McCain, Arizona, Cory Booker, New Jersey, Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota, Patty Murray, Washington, Brian Schatz from Hawaii, Edward Markey from Massachusetts, Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin, Jeff Merkley from Oregon, Mazie Hirono from Hawaii, and Dianne Feinstein from California. Some of these offices we were following up again. So Jeff Merkley, and who else? Amy Klobuchar and Ed Markey. Those were all follow-up meetings, kind of following up on meetings that we had last year, kind of just continuing to try and move it forward, find out what their concerns are. And then the other offices were all brand new. So weren't really expecting a yes for sure from them, but rather making sure they know about this issue. Dianne Feinstein, we are folks on the ground in the Bay Area and actually Sacramento here too, have met with her office here in California, but hadn't met with her DC staff yet. So, and I'm forgetting Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, and that was also a repeat meeting. So there actually are a number of other Senate targets that we have. John Tester from Montana is on that list, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. Who am I forgetting? Kamala Harris from California, and Chris Van Hollen is now on our target list from Maryland, Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, Sherrod Brown from Ohio, Maria Cantwell from Washington. Uh-oh, cat's getting hungry. You might have to hear some meows. So yeah, those plus the ones I said are our targets. We definitely have, kind of some tiering, and I'm not going to get into all of the nitty gritty. It's sort of probably, if your senator is on that list though, and you want to contact us and have a conversation about what our strategy is for them and how you can help, that would be a great thing to do. So you can say that in the comments that you're interested in that. We'll follow up with you. You could call our office tomorrow and we can have a conversation. So very open to getting into all the details, but this isn't probably the best forum to do it. Definitely didn't get any commitments yet. But a lot of good questions. When we were starting these meetings, last year and kind of a little bit at the end of the year before, we were meeting with, initially being, directed to legislative aides. Now we're meeting with the attorneys. So those are really the ones who are going to, vet whether they make sense for the senators to come on. And have to be able to explain why and how, and so their questions are the ones that kind of matter the most. And so it was good to have those conversations. But the reality is that what we heard from a lot of folks is that, yeah, we support this. We would be a co-sponsor probably, or definitely, but it's not exactly, doesn't make sense for us to take the lead. And, honestly, that's a little bit of a runaround, I think, from some of these folks. And so they need to hear from you. I live in Sacramento. So obviously with Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein, maybe I have a little bit more of a sway in their minds as a constituent. But the reality is they need to hear from you, and they need to hear from all your friends as well. The folks who do work with Congress say that, if an office gets 3 calls a day about a topic, that's when the staff will definitely take it to the senator or congressperson and say, we're hearing a lot about this. So that's not that many, but it needs to be every day, and it needs to be sustained, and it needs to be consistent. So, if you can call every day, great. Even better if you can, maybe get 4 other friends and divide up the days of the week and make those calls, but have it not be coming from the same person every time, right? And, all of us have 4 friends, I think. So we actually could be doing that. And I know that we're busy, and I know we've got a lot going on, and I know that I know that there's ways that this might feel like it's futile, right? Senators, that's like maybe my least favorite group of people out there, I can imagine. But this is part of what needs to be done. We can do the organizing, we can do the rallies. We need to build a movement. We need to connect this issue to all of the organizing and movement work for social justice that people are doing. That's what Move to Amend does almost every day. That's where we put most of our energy. But we cannot let our senators off the hook. We cannot let our Congress people just, pass tax bills or, complain about tax bills that are passed on their watch and not let them know that this is the solution to the problem and make them feel the heat. We owe it to, all of the folks who came before us who helped make our Constitution a worthwhile document. Everyone else who has gotten amendments passed, whether it was the folks who pushed for the initial Bill of Rights and didn't allow the first proposal to stand, or the abolitionists who made sure that the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments were passed so that African Americans would have rights under the Constitution, or women working for the right to vote, or the folks who made sure that the Senate is no longer appointed by state legislatures, or folks who amended the Constitution to make sure that 18-year-olds, since they can serve in the military, can also decide who represents them in Washington, D.C. We owe it to all of those folks to do our part to move this forward. And I know that it seems as though we have, barely any say, and why would they listen to us? But it's not the main thing I'm asking you to do. The main thing we need to do is actually recruit Americans to see their power and to work together to build a movement, right? But there's no reason why this should be left off of the table. There are, a number of the folks that I mentioned. I think their intention is to serve the public, and they want to do the right thing. And so we need to let them know that this should be the top of their list. So that was what I was doing last week. And we will continue to do that. But basically, this is how it works. What we need is folks to do it on the ground, in your communities, in your state, towards your Congress member. That's who they care about the most. And then I follow up. Me and the other folks from Move to Amend National follow up, and maybe we answer the harder questions, or we get into the nitty gritty of what the implications of the amendment are, or just make them know that we are a credible organization that isn't going to go away. We deliver all the names of the people who have signed the petition in their districts and say, these are your constituents who want to see you do this, and it's important that you sign our petition so that number grows. It's important you share our petition with your friends and your family and your coworkers so that whenever we go in, that stack of paper is as big as it can be. But at the end of the day, then it's got to go back to those of you who actually vote for these people, who actually could be the difference between whether they're in office or not, and let them know that this is what matters to you and this is what you need to see them do. So please help out with that. And we will be, continuing this kind of back and forth. We'll be back in Washington, D.C. actually in June for our leadership summit and lobby day. And I will let you know about that a little bit later. But between now and then, and the next time that I'm in their office, I want them to feel as though they have gotten a call about this every single week and it's not going away and they can't ignore it, right? And that is up to you. You're the only ones who can make that happen. So please help us out, right? All right. So let's see. Elena Saposi, my mother, tuning in from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Mom. Charles from, doesn't say, but hey, Charles, nice to see you. Jack, and looks like I've got everyone. All right. Bill asked about New York Senators Gilda and Schumer. Yeah, you know what? They should be on our target list as well. And one thing that's exciting coming up for February, which is where I'm going to head next, is that we are going to be hiring a legislative coordinator who will live in the DC area and who actually can make it so that our list of targets can expand, so that we actually are, working on this issue more regularly from Move to Amend National's end. The main work that this person will do is actually going to be doing volunteer coordination of all the follow-up and the constituent organizing that is really what makes this possible. But it will help to have somebody on the ground in DC. The reality is that for me or somebody else from our national team to travel there, is a big expense, and both in terms of money, but also fossil fuel wise. I mean, I live all the way across the country, and we do have others on our national team who are a little closer, but we don't actually want to be flying across this continent over and over again. So we're going to hire someone on the ground, and that's very exciting. And your contributions have helped make that possible. So that'll be coming up in February. And my hope is that next time I will be able to tell you who that is and how you can plug in with them. So I do want to announce a few more raffle winners before I go on to what's coming up. Just a reminder what this is for, I see that we've got folks who have tuned in since I started. So this is for I think it was something like, multiple thousand people. I wish I had that number. Lydia might know it off the top of her head if she wants to post it in the comments. I saw our development coordinator is tuning in. Thousands of people contributed to our end of the year campaign. So thank you. If you were one of them, thank you so very much. Whether you win a raffle, thank you or not. And so we want to thank 28 folks. So we pulled 28 names to thank and to get a present from us for being part of our end of the year donation drive. Sorry, I've got a situation going on with my cat, but I'm just going to prioritize you all and not worry about it. Okay, so one of the things that's in that mix is this hat. And we've got a couple of them, but not very many because these are not something we sell in our store. We barely have any of them, but we're going to throw them into the raffle pool. Our stamp, corporation is not a person, money is not speech. We stamp all of our cash that comes through the office with these, but we also stamp all of our outgoing mail. And maybe there's more creative things that you can think of to stamp as well, but a great way to spread the word. Legalize Democracy, which is our 28-minute mini documentary about Move to Amend in DVD form. Move to Amend water bottle made with stainless steel so you don't get plastic leaching when you're hydrating. Move to Amend tote bag, which, as I've said a couple times, good for petitioning, but also grocery shopping. These awesome handkerchiefs that say water is life in a whole bunch of different languages. And we have some leftover t-shirts from the Democracy Convention, which was an awesome event that we had last summer in Minneapolis. So we'll put those in the pool as well. So if you are a winner, we will follow up with you and figure out what your prize will be and go from there. So next batch of winners is Dorothy Wiltz, Jeffrey Hannon, Valerie Ortiz, Larry Traven, Larry Traven, Joe and Pamela McDonald, Larry Graham, and Paul Benson, who is actually a Move to Amend staffer. So we actually aren't going to give him a prize because that doesn't seem fair. But did just want to acknowledge that he did get pulled. So maybe we'll come up with some way to acknowledge him. But all of us that Move to Amend on staff are donors as well. So thank you, Paul, for not only doing the work every day, but also helping to make the budget happen. So let me keep going. There's still a few more. We're doing 28 total, so I'm not done yet. So if I haven't called your name, then there's still a chance. Stay with us. Let's see. I'll pause for a minute to answer this question. Robert Olson asks via Facebook Messenger, what are the organizations formally opposed to this amendment? What are these arguments in opposition? So, there aren't, there aren't actually folks who are like actively, in the halls of Congress saying, don't introduce this, don't make it happen, we don't want to see this. But, the organizations that are opposed are organizations like Citizens United, which is a right-wing, hey, Annie, organization that won the Citizens United case, Koch brothers, stuff like that. Pretty much the extreme right and moneyed interests are not fans of this. And so far, though, there really hasn't been a lot of organized opposition. And also that some of the people who might in other ways support those organizations, conservatives, actually support our amendment. And we know that from polling that shows that Republicans and conservatives support this amendment almost as much as liberals and Democrats and Greens or independents. Basically, 75% of Republicans believe that there's too much money in politics and that we need a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United and make clear that corporations don't have the same rights as people. And then also, whenever we've run our ballot initiatives, our resolutions calling for this amendment and calling on Congress to pass this amendment in conservative communities, they pass there as well. So the reality is that in terms of regular everyday people, there isn't actually a lot of opposition. There aren't that many issues that have, 80%, that's the average, 80% of support from the American public, but this one does. So, and in terms of arguments, if you want to learn more about that, maybe a good thing to do would be to do an internet search for Ted Cruz and Citizens United. And Ted Cruz has gotten up on the Senate floor a few times and talked about why Citizens United is so wonderful, and it's really a misunderstanding of the First Amendment. It's the notion that that this is expanding the First Amendment to equate money with speech and give corporations those same rights as well. When in reality, it actually makes it so that the First Amendment is more effectively utilized the more money you have. So instead of it being an equalizing amendment, which I think is the point of it, and the value that the First Amendment, offers us, it then becomes, well, if you have more money, then you can exercise your First Amendment rights more effectively than if you have less money. And so we need to untangle the First Amendment and money. And that is, unfortunately, I would say misunderstood by the opposition. So they really kind of put up a bunch of straw men and sort of talk about spending money in elections as if it's the First Amendment, when the reality is that before the 1970 decision where the Supreme Court ruled that spending money is protected by the First Amendment, that wasn't the case. And it was understood that we need to have limitations on money in politics because otherwise people with more money will dominate the process. Shocker. So I don't think there's actually a very good logical argument to be made for Citizens United. And in terms of constitutional rights for corporations, similarly, if corporations have constitutional rights, then entities created by government we're unable to regulate them in a meaningful way, because any regulation or legislation that we pass meant to protect the public or the environment or curb corporate behavior in excess in some way, then it is subject to being overturned because they make the case that it violates their constitutional rights. And so corporations may need some rights under the law. I think there's a case to be made for that, but those rights should come through the legislative process. They should be statutory rights, not constitutional rights, which makes them, kind of untouchable, but rather rights that are decided through the democratic process so that we can actually be clear what our economic institutions, should do and can do to help better, make for a better society. And anything that they do that doesn't make for a better society, well, then we would be able to bar that from happening, but not if corporations have constitutional rights. So I haven't actually seen a lot of, sort of honest argument for either of those. And it's mostly folks who just say, well, they have those rights, or the First Amendment and spending money in elections are, they're the same now, and so we have to keep it that way. When you look around, obviously what we have now isn't working, and so that's no reason to keep doing it. In fact, that's the very reason it's clear that we need to shift. So let's talk about what is coming up And then I'll do the last winners of the raffle, and we'll let you go about your evening. So in February, barnstorming tours continue. Our barnstorming tours are our speaking tours that we do across the country. We were in Florida last month. We just hired another new person, 2 new hires kind of at the beginning of this year. Jennifer is our new outreach coordinator, and this is an area that she is going to take over managing, so it'll allow us to kind of be in even more places and more effective with our barnstorming. So in February, we will be in Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and the panhandle of Florida. So doing a golf tour, but actually that's 2 tours. So Greg will be in Texas and I'll be in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Pensacola. So looking forward to that. I'll be in Arizona in March. We'll be in Montana and Idaho in April. Also looking at potentially Washington State in April. That's a new one that we just added. And Ohio and Kentucky in April as well. So those are all to come. If you live in any of those states, then let us know and we'll make sure you know about the events. And if we're not already planning to stop in your town, we can work with you to make that happen. And if you don't live in one of those states, but you'd like to bring a Move to Amend speaker to your community in 2018, we are taking requests for the year. And we would love to hear from you if you want to help us come to your state. So you can contact us through our barnstorming page. Garrett will post the link and let you know how you can request us to visit you. And super excited about this. We're on the very brink of opening up registration. Look for that in the next 48 hours. Might be tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, Friday, we will throw open the doors for registration to the 2nd ever National Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. on June 8th through 11th. We will have another National Lobby Day, so we'll be descending on Capitol Hill. We had our first one in 2016. It was super exciting. We had about 50 people who had, we had more than that at the conference, but 50 people who participated in the Lobby Day who had never lobbied before, almost all of them. And that was actually how we've grown so much in the House. So hopefully we can kind of unleash that energy on the Senate and make that happen this year, that we get an introduction with senators. So mark your calendars. Mark it for June 8th through 11th, but also mark your calendar for Friday because that's the day that registration opens. We'll have early bird registration. Our event is super awesome. We have excellent trainings, deep political education, community building. We've got our lobby day, networking, an opportunity to meet other Move to Amend folks. We have almost our whole national team will be there, so we would love to meet you in person. It's just so valuable to get an opportunity to be together face to face, and so we do these every other year. So it's we won't have another one until 2020, and so you don't want to miss it. DC in early June is a nice place to be, and so tickets and more details will be available soon. In the meantime, you can sign up to get the notification the minute that we open it up. So Garrett will post the link in the comments below to let you know how to do that. And I hope that we will see you there. I'm pretty proud of the fact that several people told us after our 2016 Leadership Summit that it was the best conference they'd ever been to. We do an awesome mix of grassroots skills and then, of course, tangible things like lobbying, and we're in DC, but we also connect movement issues, bring in folks from other movements to come together to talk about how we could build solidarity and make our movements bigger. We talk, tactically about how to make sure this movement is intergenerational and multiracial, and brings in all of the, diverse Americans that we need working on this issue to be successful. We look some at history and what we can learn from our foremothers and forefathers who, were social justice warriors before us. And so it's just a mix of so many different things. And then also Move to Amend people are the awesomest people. So you won't miss meeting them. People make great friendships. We build in time for community building. And it's super affordable as well. You will not find us holding an event at a schwanky hotel, and, close to the hill. We're doing it at Trinity University. We have sliding scale registration to make it possible for everyone to attend. We have scholarships. And so there are just so many reasons why this is one of the best conferences out there. And so you should definitely put it on your calendar. So I don't see any questions. A reminder that if you do have questions, I'm happy to answer them live. Hey, Pam, saw you just joined. So hello. I do want to announce the last batch of raffle winners, and then I'll answer any questions that may be out there. Hey, Sarah, nice to see you. And then we'll close out. So E. Winston Jones is our next winner. William Wilkinson, Ann Black Sanak, Brad Reicher, Daniel Klein, Linda Sheridan, Tim Drew, and Donna Cartwright. Those are our last raffle winners. So I'm going to go through them all one more time. A reminder, this is folks who contributed to our end of the year campaign. We had thousands of people who donated. Thank you so much to all of you who were part of that. We picked 28 names just to send an extra thank you. Things that we are including are, oops, I need to look and make sure I'm on screen. These hats that are I think there's only like 4 of them left. And our Legalized Democracy DVD. We have some leftover t-shirts from the Democracy Convention. We have these awesome handkerchiefs that say water is life in all different languages and have awesome screen printed water. What else? The Move to Amend tote bag. Move to Amend water bottle. And I think the last thing is Move to Amend stamp that says a corporation is not a person, money is not speech. That you can use to stamp your cash and stamp your outgoing mail and anything else that you want to stamp, your forehead, checks. So that's the pool of prizes, and the winners were Kathleen Eade, Kevin Rodolfo, Jerome Blackburn, Richard Kallman, Frederick Dodsworth, Carol Murphy, Jennifer Isaac, Sylvia Marks, Martha Kudelich, Kirk Leonard, William Stalcup, Bruce Coppola, Jackie Rose, Michael Natt, Dorothy Wiltz, Jeffrey Hannon, Valerie Arteezy, Larry Traven, Joe and Pamela McDonald, Larry Graham, E. Winston Jones, William Wilkinson, Ann Black Sanak, hyphenated name like mine, Brad Reicher, Daniel Klein, Linda Sheridan, Tim Drew, and Paul Benson, who's one of our staff members. And since we decided no staff could win, then we pulled a different name, Donna Cartwright. So thanks again to all of them. Bill Wilkinson, did you win? Are you actually here? Did I read your name? I feel like I maybe did, right? No? Yeah, William Wilkinson. Oh, that's awesome. I'm happy that you tuned in. So we'll be in touch with you, and all the other winners as well. I was really hoping that somebody who won was actually going to tune in. That makes my night. So I will stay here for a little bit longer if there's any questions. Otherwise, looks like my computer battery is going to die soon. So if you've got a question, ask it fast. And while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, I will let everybody know that our next live report will be on February 28th, last day of February, same time as always, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. So you want to mark your calendar for that. And Garrett, I don't see any questions. Can you confirm that I haven't missed any from earlier? Just want to make sure. Looks like not. All right, I don't know where Garrett went. Maybe there's a delay in terms of what he's seeing and what I'm saying. But I can also see y'all, and I don't see any questions. So, tick, 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 you're running out of time. A reminder also that if you didn't win in the raffle, many of the things that we offer are in our store, and you could get a stamp or a water bottle or DVD or tote bag. So sorry, but you can still get those prizes if you really want them. All right, looks like I'm getting the affirmative that there are no questions left. So thank you so much to everyone who tuned in with me tonight. It was fun to do this raffle. And I look forward to seeing you next month on February 28th. If you are listening to this Facebook feed not live, then you can still ask your questions and we will follow up with you in the comments. So if you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask them at any point. And you can always contact our office by giving us a call at 916-318-8040. You can go to our website and movetoamend.org and learn a lot more. You can also email us at info@movetoamend.org. So I am going to sign off, but thank you very much, Garrett, for helping be my behind the scenes support on